How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lo4f, and today I'm going to go and do a contract called Important Delivery from the Port. It's a pretty simple one. You need 2 lots of special cargo. I actually thought at the time, hence the 2 ramped flatbed trailers, that there were going to be 4 slot cargo each. It's in the second set of contracts, and the first thing says though, you've got to come up here and drive through the checkpoint. And there is a warehouse kind of there, but you can't get special cargo from there, so yeah, long story short, you're going to need to drive through the checkpoint, and that kind of like causes the cargo to spawn. And yeah, it turns out it was only 2 slot cargo, so you don't actually need both trailers, but obviously at this point I didn't realise so far. And yeah, hence partly is why I brought Steve for this one. I knew I'd obviously be going a little bit slower because it's kind of the slower set of gearboxes, but I also thought if I'm hauling 2 trailers across this kind of map and that it'd probably work out pretty nicely. And as I figured they're both going to be 4 slot, I just put a sideboard on Steve. Got Lo4f, he's got his own little seat. Brought the crane as well just in case, which yeah, I think, oh yeah, in fact yeah, it's worth bringing the crane because you're going to have to manually load these cargo. They actually just spawn on like the dock near the boat. Yeah, so there's not an option to kind of like just automatically pack them onto trailers. So yeah, that actually did come in handy more than I thought. I kind of just equipped a crane, especially on Steve, that it kind of just goes on the back like that instead. It worked out pretty nicely, but yeah, it's actually quite a crucial bit of kit in this case. Got the I kind of knew fuel-wise it'd last pretty well, but got all the roof racks and everything going just in case. Sort of gets bogged down in this section. Going back from like the garage to the main road, or say main road, I use that term loosely. Yeah, it's a little bit slow going along here. Once you actually sort of get on the main road, it's not too bad. I also assume dragging 2 trailers is probably not helping me too much, even though they're not like ridiculously heavy or anything. It probably wouldn't feel like it makes that much difference really towing 1 trailer, but I also think once you start getting into like that kind of length, that I don't know, I sort of feel like the physics, the way it locks the physics in this game, something starts being a bit iffy. I'm sure like as well, if you do a road train with 2 8-slot trailers, like the rear trailer just keeps getting locked in place and stuff, so maybe there's an element of that. Obviously as well with the winch attached to like the front hitch or whatever of the other trailer, that's kind of going to be dragging along and digging in the floor and all sorts, so it's probably not helping. But I believe this is now officially the yeah, main road-ish, the one we're supposed to fix up. I've got a roadblock to fix on this road that I probably won't, to be honest, because we're quite like cutting over the rock slide thing. There's a bridge as well that I'm supposed to build, but I actually like cutting round to the right or left of that, so it depends which way you're facing. I'll be driving over it in a minute. Now, it didn't even feel like a bad drive going up here, but I kind of feel like this probably felt like it was one of the longest parts of the journey, considering it's actually like probably the smallest distance I had to cover. And yeah, once I've got that kind of all the way then back down that main road really, yeah, to the gateway and across the Duncan Bay. I was hoping I'd try going left up there to avoid the road, but I trusted that grassy knoll more than JFK did, and it didn't pay off. See, I still think as well a little bit, I'm still kind of convinced that when we first got this truck, it had a little bit more, I don't know, torque. It's odd. Again, it sort of plays out. It feels like the clutch is slipping a bit and it's not quite giving you the full beans. But then when you go down a hill, kind of downhill, the wind behind you, and you start picking up momentum, it suddenly, yeah, feels like it's picking up the pace like it used to. Could just be me, could be the way they've coded this map, or they could have kind of downgraded everything a couple of percent, which I've sort of got a feeling they do. Yeah, this is the other bridge I'm supposed to fix. I'm not even sure what it needs in the end, but to be honest with you, I like cutting across here. It's kind of a pretty good test to see what trucks are up for it and what aren't. These rocks here as well, they're pretty, I'd say they're officially meaty on the rock category. So obviously like a truck like this with big enough tyres is going to go over it. I did get beached with something going over there the other day. I can't actually remember for the life of me now what it was, but probably had smaller tyres than Steve. But yeah, as you can see, it's actually kind of like a fair crossing in a way. Even some of the weaker trucks, they're still got a chance. You've just about, if you can get far enough, you can fire a winch out to the telegraph pole or those trees, so there is options. It's pretty fun. I may end up fixing that bridge at some point, just if there's nothing left to do, but it's not particularly high on my my list at the minute. So, well, you should be able to see, kind of where you see the big crane in the background, the big red crane kind of, cargo should spawn there, I assume, when I drive to this checkpoint. I don't even know if I have the camera in like the best angle to see it. It's probably going to disappear behind that building as well. Yeah, I kind of... But it says stage completed. Obviously now I'm panning around the camera thinking, right, where's my cargo? Kind of spotted about now. Just double checking it's not over there. Thinking, right, well, it's looking like they're 2 slot each, so release that trailer. That trailer is now dead to me, which is quite handy because, yeah, just having 1 ramped flatbed. I was quite happy to go along with 2 and do that, but I just knew inevitably, I mean, that's probably part of the reason I brought the crane, because it'd probably tip. So now, I was just looking in, you know, just thinking like, ugh, now I've got to turn this thing round with a ramped flatbed. So reversing it will be a nightmare, so I thought I'll go round, and about now, I thought, oh, that dock actually looks a little bit lower. And then, yeah, as I flew off it, I realised it really is. So I reversed before it was too late. I'm not sure, I wonder if it could have climbed back up the other side. Either way, thankfully, we hit the brakes, yeah, just when my rear tyres were still up there, so could back it up out of there. Yeah, I mean, long story short, I just wanted a way to do like a nice U-turn, so I'm facing the right way when I load the cargo. Otherwise I knew I'd get into this kind of situation where you're stacking it, and then when you reverse, the trailer is going to immediately try and jackknife and tip and twist and throw the cargo everywhere. Which is why I didn't even bother packing this second one in the end, because I kind of knew what would probably happen. Although, as it was sitting on top of that cargo, it wouldn't actually let me pack the cargo, which is another kind of restriction that we seem to have these days that never really used to be that way. So I had to kind of poke it over the back with a crane, which, again, if there's a chance it's a coincidental, I don't know, nerf or whatever, that's now not working, or, you know, it's a bit of a coincidence that there's a lot of coincidences that we get bugs that remove options we used to have. So there might be some kind of pattern to it, but I don't know, just if you can't now pack so it just jumps the cargo onto the back of the trailer, it basically just highlights, because then you have to use the crane and do what I did, but then the crane's too gutless to lift it. So it just, again, draws attention to like a pretty lapse mechanic within the game. Like the cranes are just, I don't know why they're as weak as they are, because it wouldn't really break or change anything other than be less annoying to just have cranes that work. Yeah, I started driving off a little bit before I got the camera. I've done the camera both ways because, like, as some people have said, and I agree, I've obviously end up now, I'm turning this map the opposite way to what it was, and I promise you when I first clicked on this map, when I first ever explored it, it loaded it up with the gateway at the bottom for me, and I thought, oh, that's, you know, the gateway kind of approaches from the south. That's what she said. Sounds like something sketchy. And yeah, it turns out, I've even noticed it, like, if you switch from map to map, it doesn't necessarily reset which way you've got the map orientated, whereas on previous phases it always did. So I'm guessing I had my map rotated whatever way, changed over to North Peak, and then it just loaded with the gateway was at the bottom. So yeah, I kind of just rotated the map both ways then, because I've tried rotating the map to where I look at this North Peak National Park like the way nature intended, and it just, my mind won't register it until I turn it the way that I now recognise it. But I appreciate then everybody else, it, yeah, drives them mad and they can't recognise it. The only other map I did was what's it called, Chinokomensk. That one I did the opposite way, and yeah, that kind of drove me mad back then. But this one was genuinely the game lulled me into it, and now I'm stuck, and I can only recognise it when it's rotated that way. So you can see now, like, Bruce is doing fine, he's ticking along. I mean Steve. But it just feels like there's not quite the speed there used to be. It feels like it's sort of, yeah, it holds back on the speed as if it was something like the clutch is slipping. Again, I know that not even necessarily a thing with the way like the coding will play out. Or it could be, but I doubt they've, you know, coded like the clutch and all that stuff into it. There wouldn't really be any point. But that's what it plays out that it feels like. Once you actually get up to speed though, because obviously this truck as well, I really like this, the fact that you got 6 gears I believe in auto and all that, but the high gear, it does come at the cost that that's pretty crap. And people have said, I believe it's for this truck, using the multi-purpose gearbox, which is a possibility. It just, again, it drives me mad. Changing into reverse and everything, it just goes too slow, and I let go of the button too quick, and then I just keep missing reverse, etc. Which I've flown off a mountain once or twice from doing that and accidentally missing a gear and then flooring it again, and I'm still in reverse or I'm not out of first or whatever, and yeah. Good times. See, wouldn't you get, like, say, downhill with the wind behind you? Get a bit of momentum going, we're all good. So you just knew this bit was going to eat every bit of momentum I had. But again, it was nice that I only had one trailer at this point. I probably did work out for the best, to be honest. It's probably a little bit optimistic, thinking I could just casually drive 2 trailers. Well, I mean, I would have been able to do it in the end, but how long is this video? Say 23 minutes. I mean, I'm probably messing around at the beginning a little bit as well, just explaining what I'll be doing today. So, yeah, I definitely reckon, say if I took like the Dolphin or something, you're probably talking near like a 15-minute mission maybe. The Dolphin and Lo4f don't hang around. See, I could have fit another Lo4f on the roof rack and everything, really, but thought I probably won't. I had to travel to, where did I go in the end? Drownlands, just gone by. I ended up buying loads of vehicles because I don't want to keep loading back. It was fine. I've always been to Drownlands, to be honest, lately, because we get like a lot of not Russian maps at least, so you have to keep travelling to go and buy the vehicles. And yeah, Drownlands, for whatever reason, seems to load pretty nicely. I was just saying that because in Phase 8, every time I kept loading to Phase 7, or sorry, it's in Phase 9, every time I kept loading to Phase 8, or was it Phase, it might have been what I said the first time. I just know, when I was loading to Heartlands and that, it kept crashing anyway. I was loading from, oh God, I can't even remember the name of the map now. Easy come, easy go. It's because I spent my time getting blue screened by it. But the amount of times I've seen the loading up screen, you'd think it would have stuck with me, but it's gone at the minute. Yeah, this is that landslide, road slide, whatever it's called. I quite like driving over it. So again, this is another one that I'm probably not going to fix. Or at least it's not too high on the list. It's the one called Go the Long Way Round the Marshes, or whatever. But yeah, it's a nice little test to see which vehicles can climb over it, and I think because it's supposed to be a road block landslide thing going on, rock slide, whatever it's called, I kind of, touch wood, I've made it over it every time with a bit of help from the winch. You can see there, you kind of like my third axle sort of it gets hooked on that inside rock, and they all seem to kind of get stuck there until you do a little bit of winch just to boost it over. But I suppose it's one of them, it's like a free challenge where even if it bit me and say the trailer tipped or whatever, I can kind of be like, yeah, well, it's a road, it's a rock slide or whatever, you know, what do you expect? But then when you beat it, it's, I'm not even going to finish that sentence. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's good. It's good when you overcome the rock slide. Yeah, I'm trying to think of words that don't sound like it should be followed by that's what she said, but I'm finding it hard. That's what she said, see? See, like there. See where it changed gear? But I swear it went slower as it changed gear. It made a noise to try and imply that it went up a gear, but it acted like it just went down several gears. But then again, downhill with the wind behind you, it was all going well until I face planted. He has got a bit of a massive chin on him. But overall, again, I mean, it was a good little mission. I couldn't go for anything like a mission that was too crazy. I didn't really have enough time. My nephew ended up staying over, obviously with my brother yesterday. It's just pretty funny. He's like 6 years old, and yeah, going downstairs to wow, look at a swimming pool for a fish. It's a long story, but he just comes in. It's like, give me a hug, because he's going downstairs to look at a fish pond thing. And then at some point my brother said, yeah, I do YouTube. And just the way he looked, and he's like, no way. And then my brother's like, yeah, he's on about 11,000 subscribers. And he just looks back at me like, that's insane. Like how much he's loving it was pretty funny. And then yeah, he's off to a maze today that is grown out of corn. It's obviously maize. Going to a maze made of maize. It's amazing. So yeah, he'll be loving that. He's only just realised he's going there. Not quite Disneyland, but it's a start. So yeah, it's just as it's like a lot closer down my end. Works out pretty nicely. So he'll be having the time of his life. And when he's coming, he's got like a slinky. I've not even heard a slinky for God knows 25, 30 years or something crazy. But it's pretty funny. My cat's not too impressed. My cat hates everybody except me. Well, I say hate, he's more nervous of everybody except me, to be honest. So it's been a bit of a change for him, but he's alright, bless him. Well, he actually let my nephew see him, which just even making eye contact with my cat is a bit of a rare one. Yeah, finally made it here. Just by pure chance it started the saving cog, so I just waited a little bit just in case if it did crash. It basically loaded me back up to like where I'm just about to travel through the gateway. And then yeah, you got to go up to the warehouse in the top corner. That's where it wants you to drop them off. And I don't think there's any sort of particular gain to this mission again, but yeah, just another excuse to go driving. Essentially across, like right the way across North Peak. And then some of this mission, some of this map even, should I say. Oh yeah, it's not, I keep thinking the boat is kind of still stuck in the floor to the left, but that's on my mod playthrough. In fact, yeah, bloody hell, that's come around quick. That'll be tomorrow. I don't know whether, I don't think it was specifically the mods I've chosen, I just think for whatever reason my game's having a bit of a fit when it comes to mods, because it seems to be creeping in again a little bit in this phase. I got blue screen twice last week. Yeah, I might just remove some mods and carry on that way, because the yeah, getting blue screen all the time is just a pain in the arse, and obviously it keeps ending the live stream. I can't help that either. It's just by the time it's kicked out and finished blue screening me, it just automatically says it's ended the live stream. So I'd like to avoid that if possible. See, this hill now, it was doing really well. If someone was listening to me, they'd think I was watching a porno. It's going, oh yes, go on, Steve. He's in third gear. It seemed very, very, very close to just kicking me out and going to first. My finger was hovering over the L1 button in anticipation that it's going to do that, and I should just mash it early to get him first quick. That's definitely what she said. But then it held. It kept going. Third gear all the way to the top. I was pretty happy at this point. I didn't think it was going to manage it. And you can see how slow I got at one point. I mean, again, if the whole kind of feels like the clutch is slipping a bit, almost feels like that's the situation though where it sort of paid off, as in it was able to go that slow even in third gear instead of kicking me out. But then, now, it did kick me out. Which you'd think, if anything, I'm sure that other hill looked steeper than this. It is what it is. Wasn't too happy about crawling its way up to this last little bit, but high-low soon solve that. At least we get a nice downhill run up on the other side. See, again, it changes gear, even though this does have 6 gears. And once you've let it change gear and wind up a little bit in 6, it does pull nicely. But yeah, for whatever reason, every time it changes into 6, it seems to make it go slower. I've kind of noticed that, to be fair, it's probably not necessarily a completely new thing. Because in general, say even like the Taiga, for example, I go in high gear and that a lot, and every now and then I put it back into auto, because once you've wound up to where like you're in high gear, you kind of know if you put it in auto it's going to be like 5th, 6th gear or something out of 8. But yeah, in the last couple of phases, they kind of, for whatever reason, the game, it doesn't really let us go up into 7th and 8th too often anymore, so you always get this kind of like slight, I don't know, feels like a bit of a restriction where in the end you just half the time better off sticking it in high, accepting it's not the fastest possible gear. If you can get to 8th, that would theoretically be quicker, but the yeah, the amount of hoops the game makes you jump for to get that gear, and then how long it's probably going to last. I think just sticking with high gear, having plenty of torque is usually the way to go on that one. And to be fair, overall it was a pretty drama-free trip really, because the biggest kind of faffing around was just getting the cargo on the trailer. Which yeah, if they made the cranes, I mean, it's funny as well, because the fact that Steve's got like the crane on the back, which most other trucks will have it in like the middle, it would have been even more of a nightmare to try and get these cargo on the trailer. Just, you'd already use like the truck's, the crane's length, like its reach, just getting over the back of the sideboard. Obviously at that point you probably have to disconnect the trailer, or at least, at the very least, kind of reverse it and sort of smash it around until it's kind of bent round as close to your truck as you can get it. It's like this section here, it's a nice little section to drive, but I think it's like a little bit on the boggy side, but Steve was kind of ripping through there with no real problem. And then yeah, personally I didn't see anything change once I delivered this here. There we go. We are done. And yeah, I'm suppose I'm thinking of oversized cargo. I assume that's the 4-slot one. I just, when I seen special cargo, I assumed it would, yeah, I'd end up having to like 8 slots worth of cargo. And I ain't bringing the 8th slot. Yeah, money-wise, is it 11 grand? That's not too bad if that is the case. It shrank the screens, I can't really see. But yeah, that's about it for today though. I hope you enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's a whopper. And I'll be back soon.